Remember that annotative objects are sized for a specific viewport scale. Knowing that, what do we do if the scale of the viewport changes? In this lesson we'll learn how to update our annotative objects to match a new viewport scale. On my screen I have a drawing that is configured to plot at a scale of 1 inch equals 30 feet. Let's say that my drawing design requires that I plot this geometry at a scale of 1 inch equals 40 feet. To make that change, I'm going to double click in the viewport. I'll then make sure that it's unlocked and I'll change the scale to 1 to 40. Notice that the annotations no longer display. That's because they are not intended to display at this scale. I'm going to double click outside the viewport boundary, and before I forget, we'll update the scale of the drawing. When I'm finished, I'll do a zoom extents and then we'll return to model space. To make these annotations show up at 40 scale, all we have to do is add that scale to each object. One way to do that is by selecting an annotative object. Come over to the Properties palette, and in the Miscellaneous group, we can see right here Annotative. Yes, and the annotative scale is set to 1 to 30. I'm going to click in this setting, and then I'll click the ellipsis button. I would then like to add the 40 scale to this object. I'll then make sure 30 scale is selected. I don't need it anymore. And I'll click Delete, and then OK. And since the annotative scale of this object has changed, its size is updated on screen. I'm going to zoom in, I'll click the grip, and I'll move this over slightly. When I'm finished, I'll press Escape, and then we'll return to the layout. Since this callout now supports 1 to 40 scale, it displays in the plot. I'm going to go back to model space, and I'll show you a quick way that we can globally add or remove scales from annotative objects. I'm going to start by opening up the annotation scale list, and I'll select 1 to 40, my desired scale. I'll then go to the Annotate tab, and in the Annotation Scaling panel, I'll select Add Current Scale. At the Select Annotative Objects prompt, I'm going to type All, and I'll press Enter and then Enter again. This assigns the 40 scale size to all of my annotative objects. Now don't forget, many of these still support 30 scale as well. Let's remove that scale from the objects. To do that, I'll come down and change the annotation scale to 30. I'll then open the Annotation Scaling panel again. I'll open the menu and select Delete Current Scale. At the Select Objects prompt, I'll type All and press Enter twice. Now that all of my annotations have been updated, I'm going to move this text slightly. I'll center it a little better inside the building. And then we'll return to the layout. As you can see, all of the annotations now display in the drawing, with the exception of the road names that are associated with these existing streets. Let's go back to model space. The reason this text was not updated is because this text is part of an external reference. That shows us that annotative objects also work through an XREF. If I wanted to change the properties of this text, I would select the reference, come up and choose Open Reference. From the Ribbon tab, I would then make the changes in that drawing and save it, and then I would come back to this drawing and reload. So, in the event your plot scale changes, you don't have to worry about the annotative objects. You can easily resize them by simply adding or removing scales.